Hey, hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm glad you could hear
What
me.
time is it where you are?
Do what?
What time is it where you are?
5:28 a.m.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
12, 12:20.
like midnight or like
Good night.
noon.
Oh, like in the morning, like sunny as fuck. I just woke up an hour ago, so. Do you know midnight affects the way people conversate or talk or decision making?
Do
Because
what?
of that, I would say that midnight affects like decision making in the way that people have conversations. For that reason, it's always interesting that you phone me at midnight. Well, at night.
Yeah.
Hear me?
Yes, sir. I was just trying to light me a tobacco.
Right.
You know,
Recorded?
of course I am. Always.
Yeah. Just checking. What were you saying?
It's been a rough week. Actually, it's been a rough life. I really want someone to kill me. I mean, so badly. I'm tired of people telling me that they're my friends long distance, and you know, I need positivity in my life in person. I need help with these things that I'm not able to do myself in person.
Yeah. I mean, I would visit you and help you with technology and shit in person, but it was like the trucks passing. Yeah. I would visit you and help you with shit in person, but America's. I don't know. What is America doing with the coronavirus?
The coronavirus, I think they're trying to kill us all.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it. Because yeah, Scotland's doing pretty well. Europe in general is doing pretty well, but it seems like America's just got worse from the start of it. Like America's nowhere near opening back up again.
And nope, we're not. Of course, we've also got a lot more homeless people. Over half of our population is unemployed currently.
Jobs being dropped like fucking great.
Yeah. And then they're saying, oh, well, we created 2,000 jobs. No, you didn't create 2,000 jobs. You fired 2,000 people. Big difference.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
not like low paying jobs that are getting cut as well. Like like jobs with wages that you couldn't necessarily brag about.
yeah, no, it doesn't matter what job. I mean, it's already tough enough to get a job at McDonald's here. They want fucking 2 years worth of experience for a McDonald's job? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's
2 years
a
worth of
starter job.
experience to work a grill.
Yeah,
That's more than I think can look up.
I don't think you should have to have experience to work at a friggin' burger joint. I don't. That's how you get experience, is with beginner jobs like that,
Especially since it's minimum wage.
right?
Like those kind of jobs only scream, I would pay you less if I could.
Yeah. If I could hire slaves, I would. That's what it says to me. But that's how rich people work. That's how their minds work. That's how their brains work. They're greedy people, and it's a sickness. Like, there is no reason for anybody to own a house with 30 bedrooms. There's no reason for that.
There's lots of people here who own lots of land and buy out like entire housing schemes to do pretty much nothing with.
Yeah, and then there's nothing left for the common man to buy. All you can do is rent.
Yep.
Here in the United States, we didn't adopt the Roman rental agreement until right after the Civil War. During the Civil War here in the United States, the British and the French, the very first people that they would have gone to war with combined, although it didn't happen until World War One. The French and the English were both gonna side with the South. The South just had to free the slaves. So it's the Confederacy's fault that they weren't willing to give up their slaves, because they could have been their own independent nation if they'd have gave up slavery. There's no way in hell the United States military could have taken on the South, the British, and the French at the same time. There's no way in hell. I mean, at the time, do what?
No, you go first.
I was just saying that we didn't have, during the Civil War, we didn't have a navy capable of taking on even the French navy. So taking on the British navy would have been a losing deal.
I live right across from the British Navy. Well, I live in a town that is right across from where they store like all of the weapons that make Scotland a big fat target on that.
Isn't that great?
Oh, it's lovely.
I got a great idea. You know, we're English, but we basically own Scotland. We basically own the Scottish people. And we don't really care about them, so we might as well treat them like Russians treat the Ukrainians.
That's in 1 second. Yeah, whenever, you know, Russia gets frisky, like, you know, recently they flew a plane pretty close to one of our military bases, like flew right for it. It's always, I don't know, it always inspires hope, knowing that Russia would probably hit Scotland first if they wanted to do anything to the UK.
It would be nice to be the first one out, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Between
A lot of
seeing...
people wonder why Scottish people are so volatile when it comes to politics. It's usually because we're sick of being controlled. Like our politics is our politics. You know, it's like a sun is flying through the sky and I'm roasting alive, but I'm still freezing.
You're what?
Oh my God. It's sunny as fuck outside, but it's still freezing. If I sent you a picture, you'd probably think I was melting.
Yeah.
Only in Scotland. Brought the dog out with me.
Well, it'd be nice to get help. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here in the United States that the police preyed on heavily, like the statute of limitations. Most of what the police did in the last 2 years is basically try to run out the statute of limitations so that I can't bring their officers to court or have charges pressed against them.
Yeah. Like, I understand that, but I don't know. American law is very confusing. I read about a man who went out and murdered someone, but they couldn't convict him of it because they tried to convict him of the wrong thing first. You got to agree because of that. Something petty, like they couldn't show that he intended to murder someone. Like, there was no intent, but when the sentence required intent. Lots of stupid loopholes.
What's a what?
Lots of stupid loopholes.
Yes, we call them earmarks. Like when you want to pass a law and everybody's down with it, Like, because, like with the Patriot Act, absolutely nothing patriotic about it. But because they called it the Patriot Act, everybody was like, oh, we have to be okay with this. We're patriots. 9/11 just happened. We have to be okay with this whole Patriot Act thing. But then when it all came down to it, they put a bunch of earmarks in there that had nothing to do with the original bill, and nobody bothers to read it. So they pass it unanimously or pass it by party lines or whatever it happens to be. But then it's got more loopholes because nobody bothered to read it. Our government is one of the laziest governments on the planet.
How do you manage to not read laws that are being implemented? What, did they get someone sit down and give them a briefing over it? Like what? Is there a summary?
Well, there's a lot of stuff here in the United States that the courts do that's illegal as fuck. And the police do that's illegal as fuck. So any of us that are poor have to deal with that, and we don't have any way to defend ourselves against it because it all costs money. A police officer knows that he can get away with harming a homeless person because they're not going to have the money for a civil lawyer, and the news isn't going to listen to him because nobody gives a fuck about the homeless.
Yeah, you're very lenient when it comes to people like judges, police. There's lots of laws to protect them. I read about.
There's lots of laws that
I read about in Alabama.
There's laws that make it so that you can't press charges against an officer for things that they can press charges against you for. A police officer can assault you and charge you with assault and guarantee that no police officer is going to take you seriously ever again. With the whole Natalie situation, like with her family and all the bullshit that they were putting me through, and I am disabled, and it is documented, and I should have had disability and a caseworker at 18, but I was made homeless at 18, aged out of the system. So Natalie's family, ever since Natalie died, they used Facebook groups in order to coordinate assaults and attacks against my person. And because I wasn't allowed in those groups, I couldn't take any of those pictures or use any of that evidence. And it didn't matter anyway, because they let me know at every single court date that I went to that they're literally not going to do anything about the crimes that were committed against me. Literally, the only thing that I could do to try to force them to do their jobs was to break the law myself. They're protected.
Facebook moderation for agents.
Fuck Facebook algorithms. See, that's the biggest problem right there, is that at the very beginning, there were so many people that hated me. They were just basically going through and calling everything spam, going out of their way to destroy evidence. But nobody's going to pursue these criminals, and what they did is criminal. Destroying evidence is a criminal act. Matter of fact, due to the fact that Natalie was murdered, destroying evidence in any of my cases is a felony. But it doesn't matter that it's against the law, because nobody cares enough to speak out. Like, you see how Black Lives Matters, they speak out, right? Like, you get to see them over on the news in the UK. They get to see them on the news in North Korea and South Korea, Black Lives Matters, a lot of people are speaking out. But when it comes to people who are called mentally ill, nobody's speaking out. Nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah.
The very same things that I hear black people accusing all white people of being racist because some white people tell these jokes. I'm like, you know what? I've heard black people say that exact same thing about the homeless.
Have you ever used Twitter?
Do what?
Have you ever used Twitter?
Twitter? No.
Yeah. You'd love it. It's like I don't know, it's like race wars that goes on there every day.
I don't think I'd love it. I live in a town full of white people that I can't stand because they're racist. So
the having cool thing to do nowadays is hate men, I guess.
Is what?
to say the hip and kill thing to do nowadays is hate men.
We like to pretend that we're not animals, but then we make our decisions the same way that animals do. The exception to that is autistic folks.
So,
Recent studies have shown that neurotypicals are actually brain damaged.
make illogical decisions.
They're illogical. Neurotypicals are not logical people.
Or rather, neurotypicals make a lot of decisions based purely off of emotion rather than logic or facts.
Yep. Or they make decisions based on who they have a crush on.
Mm. My father's a lot like that. He's very illogical, I guess. He's right no matter what.
That's my dad. The whole time I was up there at my dad's house, I was trying to get him to take a look at evidence, and he was too busy yelling at me, being condescending, screaming at me, telling me I'm fucking stupid and shit like that. Of course, this is the same guy who told me I need to get a pretty girlfriend, or a pretty wife, so I have someone to show off, and then I need a fat girlfriend so I can still have fun.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, this is the same guy that wanted me to make porno web pages for him when I was 15 years old. I'm like, God, man. Yeah.
I can understand that. Yesterday my mother and my father and me were out, and we were shopping, and on the way back home, my dad basically implied that I would be attacked or killed on the street based on how I looked. No matter, I tried to explain I've walked about where I live for ages, like 20 years of my life. I've never been attacked for anything, but no, I was wrong.
I used to have hair that went all the way down to my butt. Do what?
I said that quickly turned into a screaming match from a bed account situation.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
My dad beat me up when I was 15 because he was drunk. So he beat me up for like the second or third time over an F and PE. And basically the cops gave me a choice between staying with my dad or going and getting locked up at juvenile hall. And my dad... Do what?
I said, so there were loads of help on that.
No, they're not. They're more likely to haul off the victim and drug him up than they are to take the predator. Most of the time, the predator's your dad. But
I suppose when you think of it in a money aspect, it's much easier to do that. It explains it.
Well,
not that it's justified at all.
The reason that I decided to stay with my dad was because it was only supposed to be for one night, and then I was going to be moving to Nebraska. And he wouldn't let me get on the airplane unless I cut my hair off, because if I went to Nebraska with long hair, they'd beat me up for being a fag. I'm like, God, Dad, what a fucking dick.
You would be in a similar situation.
Well, you know, I've been called gay my whole life. You know, I'm used to people calling me gay and using that as an excuse. And, you know, I got a lot of gay friends that tell me, you know, you don't know what it's like to be called gay or have people treat you like this and that and the other. I'm like, no, actually I do. And I'm not gay. I'm straight and I have to deal with that shit. And then I got to deal with my gay friends treating me like shit because I'm straight and I'm not being supportive enough. I'm like, fuck, I speak out more than you do.
I mean, I would argue being called gay online is not much of a big deal. I would say, like, the only time it would get scary is just in real life. Again,
and see, that's a very good point to make, but that's also a point that I've been making, is that people keep saying, oh, well, you just need to get off the internet and this will all blow over. No, it fucking won't. It doesn't
not
work
like
that way.
Internet age, I guess.
The people who are assaulting me aren't assaulting me over the internet. But the internet shows the frame of mind that I have to deal with from the people who are assaulting me in real life.
The problem with the internet is that the information on the internet is so vast that any moron with fingers can go online and find some reason or another to justify their opinion, whether it's right or wrong.
Well, that's the biggest problem here, is that it's not just opinions. When it gets to the point where someone is being physically assaulted, or gets to the point where people are dead, then yeah, it's gone far beyond the point of just harassment.
Yeah.
And it was beyond the point of just harassment within a month of me leaving Virginia. I mean, I left Virginia in October of 2016, and I had people pushing me and shoving me before the end of the month, because I left Virginia in October of 2016, and I was back in Boulder in October of 2016. And I had to deal with people the day that I got there. Druggy friends, Natalie and Alicia's friend, Maddie Boa. She used to be my friend too. Maddie Boa is a lesbian though, and Natalie and Alicia, they're twins, but they're also both bisexual. And Maddie Boa had a sexual relationship with Alicia Bollinger. She's the one that's still alive. And she was supposed to go to Virginia with me, but she got busted selling methamphetamine. So she couldn't go. The problem is she couldn't go. Her probation officer wouldn't let her leave the state because she got busted selling meth, you know?
I see.
But the thing is that I'm getting abused. I mean, even last week, the guy that I was telling you about, Chris Kurth, the one that threatened my life in 2018, and I went and talked to the police and tried to get them to do something about it in 2018 on at least 3 different occasions. And I've spoken to them on multiple occasions since then. They have not done a goddamn thing. They have not talked to any of the people who are threatening my life. They haven't done a goddamn thing, have not lifted a finger, have done everything in their power not to do their jobs.
Oh, what a fucking man-child.
Do what?
What? I said, what a man-child. Like, I don't know, I just don't understand that people could act like he does. Like a 5-year-old that has the social and mental capability of a 5-year-old, like, to go chasing after someone like it's some sort of lynching.
Right? And that's what they do, though. You know, and then I get these guys who think it's just internet harassment. I'm like, no, it's not just internet harassment. It's real life harassment. And sure, a lot of the world completely forgot about it because people die and disappear every day. But the people who know me are going to remember that for the rest of their lives. Now, Chris Kurth, he knows who I am. I mean, shit, we went to the same high school, lived in the same town for years. It's a town of like 500 people. It's not like you can actually live in the town without knowing who these people are. But then this little dweezil fucking bitch ass fucking cunt face wants to go around and try to destroy my life at every fucking chance that he gets, just like the Bollingers did, just like the police did. I actually had to go to people with a history of abusing me because I was hoping that they would help, because they were promising that they would, and every one of them fucking dipped out. Every one of them stabbed me in the back over things that I didn't do, or over things that other people did, or over things that they did. I'm like, this is fucking fucked up. Like Candace Bondurant. You know, if the police were actually doing that shit, then she needed to come forward. Otherwise, she is allowing innocent people to be harmed for crimes that they didn't commit. And allowing police officers to get away with committing crimes. A lot of people are like, well, if you don't want to have to deal with the police, don't break the law. Bitch, the police break the law every fucking day. So why didn't somebody try arresting the police? I said somebody should try arresting the police.
I don't think you'd have any department that handles policing the police. When you police the police, I think that's a saying that it's time to start over.
Right? Well, see, that's the thing, is that the police officers that I was supposed to talk to about the assaults by the police officers turned out that they weren't actually there to investigate those officers or the assaults against me. They were there to do anything that they could to hide the fact that that officer, who should have never had access to me again after Natalie's case, and after what he did in his own jurisdiction, the Officer Burke was one of the officers that was supposed to be involved in Natalie's case. He was supposed to call me, but he never did. He was also one of the officers that was there the night that I went and talked to the Adams County Sheriff's Department. Well, they transferred him out of Adams County and transferred him to Boulder County, which is where he assaulted me. Meanwhile, it's been 2 years. Nobody will investigate it. Not one agency, not one fucking person will actually take a look at this evidence. Meanwhile, I have these issues that prevent me from being able to show it in the only way that I have left. And I've tried all of these options, including the only one that I have left. I'm tired of it. What I want is someone to actually fucking kill me. I don't mean make believe. I mean actually fucking put a bullet in my head. And that's what I've been saying since the beginning. Help me or fucking kill me. I'm tired of being abused. Yeah.
Wait a second, I need to give my dog water.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Well, your dog's allowed to drink.
He gets too hot. He's got like a thick, insulated fur coat. Okay. He's done, but now I can't drink out of that water bottle. Well, I think I could move on more with my little dog. It's nice out, but it's freezing.
It's kind of chilly here. It's nice, though, because it's chilly.
You just get a lot of sun?
We do get a lot of sun. We're probably about 4 hours away from it being too hot to go outside, but I'll have to go outside anyway.
Why? Curiously.
Well, if it's 110 degrees out, which sometimes it gets that hot, but usually, you know, the hottest we get is 102, 103. But I'm in a big fucking metal box. So if it's 100 degrees outside, it's 120 in here.
Yeah, you're being cooked alive like an oven.
Yep.
Turn you into Christmas.
But then again, it's better here than it is up at low income because their rules are stupid. Like, I'm a grown-ass goddamn adult. I'm not a fucking retard. You know?
Apart from not shitting on the wall, like, what else would there be?
Well, it's run by a lady named Cindy. And there's the rules that the housing authority has, and then there's Cindy's rules, which are different. So basically, if I have somebody come to visit me, according to the rules for low income, they can stay with me for up to 30 days or up to 14 days out of a 3-month period. But Cindy won't allow me to have somebody stay the night unless they fill out paperwork to live there.
What?
Yeah.
That seems sketchy, but hopefully it's alright for you to be saying stuff like that. You're not gonna.
I don't give a fuck.
Kick you out because you're saying that to me.
I don't give a fuck. I really don't. I got a mailbox now. I'm literally spending $227 a month to have a fucking mailbox. That's the only reason that I'm paying $200 and something at low income every month. It's the only reason I signed that stupid lease.
But are you talking about your PO box or like?
They wouldn't allow me to have a PO box unless I had a residence, and they only allow one PO box per street address. So I had to have my own street address, or I have to use somebody else's mailbox. And using other people's mailboxes, which is what I've had to do ever since Natalie disappeared, has resulted in people, well, not keeping their word, not checking the mail, not getting a hold of me when the mail comes in. And when I get screwed over, they pretend like I'm some sort of a bad person for saying, hey, your actions, your decisions had this effect on me. Stop blaming me. Well, with all due respect, if you fucked up, you fucked up.
Yeah. A lot of people are used to hearing that they've done bad. I wonder if that's like another typical thing where like people get really, really defensive when you tell them that they've fucked off.
Oh fuck yeah, they do. All right.
Like if someone tells me that I fucked up, I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, see, that's the way I usually am, but there aren't very many people who are like that. There aren't very many people who are willing to admit that they fucked up, especially when it's something that's, well, big, like Natalie's situation. Most people were too afraid to come forward because Natalie Bollinger's family was, and their friends and their extended family, and then their internet buddies that they got because of all the slander that they fucking spread about me. Like, basically, the Bollingers can do whatever they want, and I'll get blamed for it no matter what.
Is that then saying shit on Facebook?
Do what?
I said, is that because of them saying shit on Facebook? Or?
Well, it's not just Facebook. I mean, her family are straight up evil people. They don't give a fuck about anyone but themselves, their own attention, and the free shit that they got. Like, a lot of people treat me like shit because they think I got $10 million when Natalie died because people sent me $1 billion to a whole bunch of GoFundMes. I'm like, that's not the fucking case. I didn't get a single penny from GoFundMe, but Ted Bollinger did. He got to go on vacation to Boston.
Like, random people?
Do what?
Like people you probably don't even know or have never known in your entire life. Or the kind of people on there, like, starting GoFundMes. For things regarding you. Like,
two of the people that started them are people that I'd never met. And one of them was Candace Bondurant, who, well, she said she was going to help me, and then she did everything but. Her help fucked me over. And then she wants to pretend I'm a bad guy because I'm speaking out about it. I'm like, hey, if you rape somebody and I speak out about it, maybe you shouldn't have raped them.
She said she started a GoFundMe. Did she make money from it?
I don't know if she made money from it or not.
Is it just because you don't know how to check that, or?
When Natalie died, I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. Like, I got screenshots of conversations that I was having with people right before Natalie died. And you can tell I'm really trying hard to get a lawyer. I am really trying hard to get help. I'm really, really trying hard to get a GoFundMe started so that I can actually try to recover the situations that I continually get stuck in because I'm easy to victimize and I don't have the help that I need. So then I get treated like I chose to be victimized. Like, no, I'm stuck in that situation, in a desperate situation, because the last person ripped me off. I mean, I had people who called themselves my friends who stole nearly everything I ever earned in my lifetime.
But why? Well, I think I can get why.
Because they're selfish. Neurotypicals are selfish people. That's not to say that they never think about others. It's to say that they're going to forget real fast that they're supposed to be thinking about others, and they're going to go all attention deficit on whatever they care about. And a lot of
I think
people,
it's more like they think about it until it's no longer convenient. Probably.
I guess that too. But there's also the assumption, you know, I got people who have an IQ of maybe 100 if they really push it, treating me like I'm an idiot because I'm autistic. And I'm like, hey, bud, I got an IQ of 172. One of my friends in Boulder used to call me top heavy. I'm like, why the fuck do you call me top heavy? He's like, because you're fucking scrawny as shit, but your brain is huge.
1 second, my dog's pulling over my sheet because they're done. I also can't hear you that well because it's windy.
That's all right. I've been having problems hearing you too, and it's not your accent. I can understand your accent.
My accent's been neutralized a wee bit. Like, my accent's not as thick as it would be if, say, I was talking to family.
Yeah. It's like talking to Southern folks.
Like a twat. There's that as well.
You guys are allowed to say twat over there, and cunt. Over here, that's like the worst thing you can call somebody is a cunt.
The C word's a little bit more frisky. Like, I don't think I could get away with it. But you need to look the part if you want to get away with it. It's strange.
I suppose.
Yeah, we have a lot of.
I said, I suppose. I've never been to the UK, so I got to take your word for that.
UK's not that great unless you go, you know, somewhere up into the Highlands, I guess. A lot of people like to hype London up, but London's pretty shit. It's really, really shit.
So basically, you're telling me that the UK is crap except for your home team.
I would say where I am right now is pretty shit as well. I live I don't know if I should say where I live.
No, you probably shouldn't.
So, it's not entirely nice here, I guess. Like, it's alright, but the further you get to London, the shittier it gets. The reason I say up in the Highlands is better is because there's less people. And generally, the people there are a little less bigoted, I guess. Like, here you wouldn't see two people of the same gender flirty or holding hands, but up in the Highlands, you'd probably see something like that. And it would be normal. Also, see other people of different ethnicities.
I wish we had more of that here in the U.S. I mean, you know, it does depend regionally on where you're at, though. Because, like, in Colorado, it's a lot more acceptable to be a black person than it is in, like, anywhere on the East Coast. Over on the East Coast of the United States, it's still highly segregated. The white people get the bosses' positions, and the black people get the laborer positions, and that's just how it is. And then of course it was Virginia while I was there, so their minimum wage is like $7.50 an hour, $7.25 an hour, something like that.
Yeah.
And they
I
say,
really like being exposed to different cultures.
me too.
Do you?
Well, I know that
I would.
Scotland is famous for a lot of things, like your invisible houses. Not actually
I've heard of it.
invisible.
Explain.
All
You're
right,
referring
so
to like heads up in the Highlands that have been blown over? Like
nope,
old ones?
older than that. Back when the Romans went through there, they actually named Londinium and stuff like that, and Scotland they called Caledonia. And the Caledonians,
Right.
they'd make their houses so they were completely covered in grass. So unless you knew where the entrance was and were facing it, it just looks like another mound.
God, there's just something so aesthetically pleasing about grass on the roof of your head. I love that.
Yep. Well, that's why Scottish people were believed to not live in houses when the Romans were there.
We were the mole people who lived underground.
They talked about the Romans talked about how the Caledonians didn't live in houses. There were no dwellings in Caledonia. There were no houses. There was nothing. So yeah, they basically thought y'all sprouted up out of the ground like mushrooms.
To be fair, I think that they kind of knew, but they used that like they're primitive as like an excuse to slaughter us. Do you know what I mean?
Could be.
Like, I genuinely believe there were people who believed that, but at the same time, I think they knew. Like, there's no way they walked through the entirety of Scotland and were being killed by Scottish people and never like saw one structure that they thought, hey, that's a house.
Well, this is 2,000 years ago. Most of the structures that they would have seen that they would have assumed were a house had been abandoned during the Bronze Age, and then they weren't picked up until far later on. Some of those settlements that are there that start in the Bronze or start in the Stone Age, and they extend all the way to the Iron Age. A lot of those places, there's rock structures, and they're basically fortresses, kind of like the hill forts that are. Well, I guess most of those are around the area of Wales and south of there, but there's a couple of hill forts up there in Scotland. But there's more fortresses in Great Britain per square mile than anywhere else in the world. There's also more pyramids in Mexico than there is per square mile than there is anywhere else in the world.
I want to see a pyramid in real life.
Train. But that's where my special interests come in. It's like I'm interested in how everything works. So that's what I study, that's what I educate myself on. And it doesn't really matter what it is, from a human brain to a dog's brain to how a boat works to an ancient sailing trimaran to a modern catamaran to helicopters, jet engines, internal combustion engines. I just want to know how it works.
I like to know the inner workings of like how animals, humans, dogs, things alike interact socially. Especially humans. Like I know a lot about human psychology, I guess. Because it genuinely does have. Normal people are not so normal.
Anybody who thinks they're normal is obviously crazy. And anybody willing to admit that they're crazy has got it more together than most. I admit that I'm crazy, Because I'm human and I understand that the difference between humans and animals is that animals do not have abstract thought. That's why we're crazy and animals are not. When an animal sees dinner, it doesn't make excuses, it just goes and gets its dinner.
Yeah, I find that interesting that animals kill other animals and don't think twice about it, but humans could go to kill an animal and think, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should eat a salad instead. It's pretty hilarious. I like that.
Right? Well, that's pretty much the whole world right now. A bunch of friggin' wingnuts who want to force everybody else to live like them, and anybody who doesn't want to live like them needs to be forced to live like them. And if they won't be forced to live like them, then they need to be killed. And that seems to be a worldwide mentality right now.
Forcing people to do things never thinks they do.
Giving people empty promises and then punishing them for coming back and saying, "Hey, you word."
Is my random talk interesting? Because I have more random things to talk about.
No, you're good.
Like landscape and where you live. I hear a lot of America's flat. I think like it's not a very hilly place. Is that true?
It all depends on where you're at. Where I'm at, it's pretty flat. It's mostly wheat fields and cornfields and millet fields and sugar beet fields, and yeah, it's pretty flat. It's not as flat as Kansas, though.
Can I send you a picture of where I'm staying right now, and you can tell me how common the view would be in America?
Yeah. Now, mind you, I haven't been to a whole lot of places in the United. Well, actually, that's not true. I think there's a possibility that I've been in all but 5 states and all but 7 states in the last 3 years.
But you've traveled a hell of a lot more than I have, because the view that you see in that picture is mostly where my whole life's been restricted to. I'm way too scared to drive a car or take a plane or anything like that.
All right. Well, I'm blowing up the picture so I can see it big. The house is off to the right. That kind of looks like something that would be in Virginia or in Boulder. That stone wall that's there, we have that around a lot of old Civil War sites and a lot of old jails and stuff. The quasi mountains that you have in the background, that's kind of like the mountains they have over on the East Coast, except that yours don't seem to have as many trees by a long shot.
That land up there that you're seeing was burnt recently. I don't know what happened, but sometimes things just catch on fire.
Right?
You probably see where to the right of the picture there's a lot of like really light green land. That's not sun, that's like grass growing back from being burnt.
Ah. Yeah, I can see that.
I think a lot is it's like farmland, probably.
That's what it looks like.
So it would be, yes, the like landscape would be seen in America, but like not all together. So where I am right now would be a weird mesh of all of it.
No, not even close.
No.
I mean, there's looking at my screen's probably about a foot wide and a little over half a foot tall for the picture that you sent me. And if I break it down inch by inch, then I can show you what different parts of the United States look like. Like if you look at the house, and you look above the tree that's right next to the house, close to the center of the picture. If you look directly above that, then you can see some area that looks like a lot of the area around here. I mean, it's kind of rolling around Sydney and a little bit further west. It kind of looks like that, but most of Nebraska looks like that except flatter. The trees that you appear to have over on the left hand side of the picture, where it looks like it's nearly all trees. That's what Washington State looks like. That's also what Virginia looks like. It's what a lot of North Carolina looks like. Um, that looks like is that an ocean inlet there? Because that looks like a lake here in Nebraska.
Oh, wait. Oh, no. It's called the Clade.
It's called what?
It's called the Clade. Clade. I'm not exactly sure what it would be classified as. But to me, that's pretty big. For you to call that a lake, holy shit.
All right. If you look at the red car, if you look directly above it, there's a white thing behind two trees. Is that a grain bin?
A white thing?
It looks like a building. Yes, sir.
Yeah. It's like a high flat.
A flat is an apartment building, right?
Yeah, like multiple, you know.
So it's a tall apartment building. So it's a tall apartment building.
Yes.
Yeah, the shape of it kind of looks like the grain bins that we have here, where we put all the corn and wheat and millet after it's been harvested.
Oh. You need a permit here if you want to do anything like that.
Well, I don't know where you'd store your grain if you didn't have them. But yeah, different parts of that look like different parts of places that I live. But it's like Boulder, for example. If you look at those hills across the other side of the lake there, by the way, that lake is about the size of Jumbo Lake here in Nebraska. It's smaller than Lake McConaughey. So I guess we have some pretty big lakes here.
Yeah, it is connected to the ocean, but still, I'm kind of a lake. I don't think I would ever call that a lake.
Well, I might call it a tributary. It's probably fed from a river at some point. A tributary. Those are all of the little creeks and small rivers that run into a bigger one.
Like if you look at like a satellite from the my boards are getting twisted. If you get like a satellite view, you can see like stems from the ocean, and then it's a smaller lake, river, whatever, and then it stems off like those.
Yeah, like the South Platte River. It starts off as the Platte River, and then it separates into the North Platte and the South Platte River.
Oh. I want to play Minecraft now. You just kind of mentioned that. I had a slight addiction to Minecraft. You mentioned it a couple of videos ago, like kind of unfold to that again.
Oh, when I was that guy's name was Ender something or other, and I was like, "Do you play Minecraft?" Yeah.
I like building in it. It's quite therapeutic, actually. Just building random shit. I like finding little towns of people and like building fences around them and protecting them.
I like building stuff in real life. A lot of that stuff on computer games, it's therapeutic for me, but that also depends. Like I do need human interaction in order to have a positive frame of mind. We all do. Now, if I had a place,
Minecraft, I know how to set up a server.
I have Minecraft on my computer actually. I was building a Roman fort, and I don't play survival mode just because I only use it basically for building. I like building stuff. Yep. So I play creative, but I don't play very often. Minecraft has never been my game. I mean, between a box of Legos and a week playing Minecraft, I'll get bored with Minecraft. I'll never get bored of Legos.
I used to play a game called Roblox, so it's pretty much like that.
Yep. I remember Roblox.
Yeah, I played the shit out of Roblox. I've lost so much of my life to that game. Holy crap.
Well, Roblox here is basically a Lego. I didn't know there was a game with them.
What do you mean?
Well, like Legos, Connects, and Roblox and Lincoln Logs are like the children's building kits that we get. So if Roblox is a video game, then it's different than what we got here, because what we got here, it's basically a Lego.
Yeah, so Roblox has been a video game since 2009. I think they only started producing stuff like Lego sets in like 2004. But not 2004, 2014. So it's like their merchandise, like game merch. But it has been a game for a long time before they started selling stuff like that.
But it's very similar to Minecraft, right?
Yeah.
That's the one
like, it's like, I don't know if you would get the Roblox experience from playing with like toys that they have. I do have some in my room, but they're kind of just like displayed, I guess. Like they're just like, oh, funny, play Roblox. Because you get a code inside them that you can get stuff on the game. I'm gonna go in. I'm glad you're on the phone because I've been sitting here for a while and there's a guy that got out of his car and he just stood there staring holes through me straight for like the last 20 minutes.
Welcome to Chapel, Nebraska.
Tell me, do I seem like someone you would assault? Like, do I seem like someone who is vulnerable or to be assaulted in the streets? So I'm genuinely curious now by what my father.
Oh yeah, dude, I could beat you piss limber on accident. By the time I was done with you, they'd have to clean you off the cement with a sponge and a bucket.
Like, what are we talking?
Well, that's what piss limber means. It means that basically you get beaten to a bloody pulp, and you're basically in a liquid state. If you're in a liquid state, your friends aren't going to be able to pick you up and put you in an ambulance. They got to sop you up with a sponge and then wring it out into a bucket.
Oh no.
No, you don't look like a tough guy. You also don't look like somebody who goes looking for trouble. You look like somebody who's quiet and laid back and probably to some degree afraid of his own shadow. But that's just based on looks.
Well, you're kind of right. I am laid back, but I don't know. I'd like to think that I'm not entirely as weak as someone would think. Like, you know, I'm not on stance alone, you would think, but I'm like probably a pretty heavy built person, I guess.
Well, you're very young, so you have very young features, and it makes you look like a little kid. I would definitely feel bad if I got into a fight with you.
It's too wonderful for my ego, thank you.
Well, yeah, I got to look at it from an outsider's perspective before a situation like that ever comes into play, because I have to have it planned out ahead of time what it is that I'm going to do if something messed up happens. So, like, if there was a situation where you were to attack me, I look like the big, mean, friggin' grizzly bear, and you look like a teddy bear. So, by comparison, you know, it's not that you're actually a teddy bear, and it's not that I'm an actual grizzly bear. It's just that people judge based on looks.
I suppose I look the way I look mainly because I don't know, I'm naive in a way, I guess. A lot of things. A lot of people I know already started family. A lot of people I know already, like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people I know look like men. I kind of just look like a child. It's genetics, I guess.
Well, my hair started falling out when I was 16, so by the time I was 18, I didn't even have to show ID.
I've been asked by people to like go in shops, buy alcohol. So I guess I look open up in a way that sense. So I could get away with buying alcohol. Never drunk though, really.
Well, I suppose if you look the way that you look now, and I was still in high school, I don't know. I might be intimidated by you, but I think it's just the fact that like you're just too fresh faced for me to. I'm trying to figure out how to say this without seeming like a jackass. You're too fucking cute, dude. And that's not me hitting on you. You are just
A cutesy looking person.
right. Like, I wouldn't call you a pretty boy because, you know, you're not like a model looking person. But then again, you're not ugly. You know, you're not somebody that I would look at and go, man, that dude has been through hell. Look at all those scars. Look at, you know.
I love your honesty.
Most people love my honesty until I'm honest about them.
See, I lack a lot of. I don't know. Like, it's hard to explain. But when you say you may feel intimidated by me, a lot of people do, mainly because I lack a lot of important social cues. Like, for instance, people can feel uncomfortable when you don't use your hands to speak. Do you know what I mean? Like, it makes you
seem
more lively. I tend to be, like, very cold, like, not meaning it. As in, like, I'm hard to read, I guess. Like, if you met me in person, I'd probably have to actively try to express myself and seem not dead inside.
Yeah, a lot of people who are autistic end up with that specific trait just because you're not allowed to show the same emotions as others. But then there's a lot of people who do what?
That I show less accidentally.
Well, that's the way that most of us who are autistic end up. We end up, you know, first of all, we get treated differently than others just because we are different, and people are afraid of things that are different. Me, I was grounded in high school, literally grounded to the house through high school here in Chapel, Nebraska. But my older brother, like, he could do whatever he wanted. He never got grounded. If he did get grounded, it was for a couple of hours, and then he was allowed to go do whatever the hell he wanted. But me, I was a good kid, and I was the one who was permanently grounded. And a lot of people who are autistic, they end up getting so much shit from their parents that they just end up hiding their emotions. One lady that I was talking to here in Chapel, her and her husband is the father of several of my friends. So, but he's ultra Christian, and his wife is ultra Christian, but they're the judgmental Christian types.
Oh,
Like you better not be gay or you're going to hell and I won't be your daddy kind of thing. But this lady, she's got a son who's autistic, and she tells me, "Oh no, I know all about autism," and I can tell that this woman's got an IQ of a fucking rock. And she's telling me, my son is autistic, and he uh, doesn't have any emotions. He's basically a little psycho. And I'm like, no, he has emotions. He absolutely has emotions. It's you treating him like he's a psycho that makes him so that he feels he has to hide them. You're allowed to get angry at him. You're allowed to yell at him. You're allowed to tell him he needs to go to his room. But he's not allowed to defend himself like his siblings are.
No. See, even if you're quote unquote normal, if you treat someone like a psychopath, they're going to end up being like a psychopath. Like, that applies to everyone, like the statistic people, I guess. So
yeah, if you treat somebody like an animal, you don't get to complain when they start to act like one. And that's the issue here, is that people wanted to treat me like I was an animal, like I have no rights, like the Constitution doesn't exist. And I'm like, no, see, that's the thing, is that Constitution is supposed to be for all of us. If these soldiers are over in Iraq fighting for a constitution we don't have in the United States, they're not fighting for my rights. They're killing foreign people. That's what they're doing. They are trespassing and murdering people in their own houses.
Usually innocent people.
Yep.
Tell me, I'm genuinely curious. It's hard to explain, but for me, it took me a long time. I mean, a long time to fake it. If you know what I mean, interact with normal people on their level. Is that a struggle for you at all? How long did it take you to mimic being normal, I guess?
Well, it depends on where you're at. Some places they call it mimic. Some places they call it mirror. I call it both. But I grew up in the system, moving around all the time, so I learned a lot of the same techniques that minorities learn. A lot of minorities, when they move to an area where it's mostly white people, first thing you do is you make fun of yourself a little bit. If you're a black person, you make fun of black folks. If you're autistic, you make fun of autistic folks. If you're, whatever, you make fun of yourself first. And that helps to loosen people up, and then they'll be a little bit more friendly with you. I didn't actually learn to be social until I was about 7 or 8. And I peed the bed till I was 9, but that's not important. But a lot of that was because of where I was at, the interactions that I had with the other people that I was locked up with, the rules that you get from the staff members. I mean, it's not even close to being the same as going to school in a mainstream school and growing up with a family, and you're allowed to give hugs and you're allowed to get hugs and you're allowed to go play at recess. Like that's not even close to the system. The system is you ask permission before you enter a room. You ask permission before you leave. Lights are out at 8:30, depending on which facility you're at. You do not get off of your bed during the course of the night except to go to the bathroom. And if you make more than 2 bathroom breaks, they're going to put you in the timeout room.
What?
Yeah, because obviously, if you have to pee more than twice in the night, then you're just doing it to fuck with their heads.
Yeah, quite clearly you're in control of your own body. It's your fault.
Right? If you gotta pee, you gotta pee. And I've had a small bladder my whole life. And they can't blame that on the prostate issue, because I had that issue before I ever hit puberty.
I've got terrible habits for that. I wake up in the middle of the night constantly just going back and forward.
Yep.
Drinking tons of water before bed probably doesn't help, but I don't know, you can't really help help it because then you can't sleep if you're gone to bed thirsty.
Right?
Well, I can't. I don't.
I can't either. I also can't sleep if I don't have at least a sheet or a blanket or something over me.
I will sleep under the covers even if it's a million degrees outside, like, and I'm roasting alive. I just can't do it.
That's another
So if you
autistic
don't,
trait.
we're gonna get you. I'm kidding.
Most autistic people that I know, it's not a matter of them being violent. It's a matter of them being surprised. Like a lot of autistic people, it's not that they're against hugs. It's that they don't understand it. So when you go to give somebody who's autistic a hug and they're not expecting it, you could startle the shit out of them.
I've encountered people I've known from high school. But I don't talk to anyone I know from high school. I don't entirely have any interest in it. Like I don't hate any of them. It's just that like I don't know. I'm indifferent. I've had a lot of them come up and want to hug me in public, and I've had to awkwardly explain, please don't do that. Please don't put me in that situation.
Right?
It's weird. And it's even weirder when you have to reject them and tell them I'm not entirely comfortable with that. They look at you as if you're, absolute sin that you could reject something so wholesome.
Well, I've always liked hugs, and I do like physical interaction, but it depends on the physical interaction, and I have to be aware that it's coming. Like, for me, I'll probably never have a girlfriend because here in the United States, we don't teach women to be honest. And if a woman is not straightforward and honest about what she wants from me, she's not going to get what she wants from me. And that's where neurotypicals get things that I don't. Like a neurotypical, when a woman says, yeah, I'm not interested in you, but then her body movements say something entirely different, and then she wakes up in the morning and has a new boyfriend, obviously what he did was immoral and improper and the wrong thing to do, but it turned out fine for him. For somebody like me, if a woman says, I'm not interested, that's the full extent. I mean, whether it was solicited or not doesn't matter. It's the fact that she told me she is not interested. So I'm not going to think of you that way. And it's that easy for me. But a lot of people can't do that. They can't separate themselves from that.
I feel exactly the same. Like, a lot of people who have, people who have asked me out, per se, I may just be ignorant, but I feel like a lot of them have never given me any idea or any remote clue they are interested, and the question pops up. It's a little bit daunting. But people, the social cues that people have with each other confuse the shit out of me, and I'm exactly the same. If you tell me to, like if my dad said, you fill teapot up, I will fill teapot up with water and I will not turn it on. And I've got to actively think, put tea bags in, turn it on. So to deal with that kind of shit in a relationship, just completely be dummy.
See, that's one thing right there that tells me I could never be British. I am a coffee drinker.
Oh, sorry.
I
don't like tea.
I used to like tea when I was younger, and I hated coffee. Now I don't like coffee or tea, but I'll sugar the shit out of both of them so I can drink them.
I like coffee with pretty much nothing in it. Straight up coffee.
A lot
I
of
need
people
caffeine
do.
in my veins to survive. Or I can't.
Well, I don't think you are a very good Brit. You should probably come here to the United States. And don't worry, I won't force any Starbucks into you, and we can steer clear of Folgers entirely.
Do you have lots of Starbucks there?
Oh my god, dude, yes we do. We have a Starbucks on every corner, nearly in every major city. But Chapel, Nebraska has no Starbucks.
Oh. What's
Yeah.
your replacement Starbucks then? I assume some companies took the place of it.
All right, so I'm going to give you the grand total list of all of the services we got in Chapel, Nebraska.
Right.
We have a sheriff's department that isn't going to do their jobs. We have volunteer fire department. We have volunteer ambulance. We have one grocery store where everything is out of date. We have 2 bars and no just straight up restaurants. The 2 bars are both bar and lounge kind of places. And that's pretty much it. There was a long time there that Lodgepole, Nebraska, the only service they had was a bar. We also have 3 gas stations.
But Nebraska,
do what?
I said I don't mean to offend you, but Nebraska seems shit.
Nebraska is shit. Complete shit. I've lived worse places, but it really does take a lot to beat Nebraska. Nebraska is complete shit.
America gets its shit together with COVID and opens up finally.
Yeah, America's never going to get its shit together. We're too sucked into the boob tube, or the telly, I guess is what you guys call it.
On Twitter, I've never heard someone call TV boob tube.
Call it a what?
That's amazing.
A boob tube?
Did you just call TV boob tube?
A boob tube, yeah. American slang. Well, we have an insult here called inept boob. Basically, it means that you're a non-functional human being. An inept boob, basically, you're making a reference to the fact that, you know, a breast is for feeding a baby, and that doesn't even work. So,
oh my god.
When you call somebody an inept boob, you're basically saying that they're useless. And the boob tube makes people useless. They just want to sit there in front of the boob tube and vegetate. Right? On the bright side, I try to keep the Schwartzisms to a minimum.
I'll probably not understand a lot.
Probably not. A lot of my slang is based on American slang that I have warped the living shit out of.
I don't know a whole lot of like UK slang per se. We don't really have a whole lot. I'm trying to think of one so I can give you something to use. People say, "I'm going to walk my hand across your jaw." Which means I'm going to slap you. It's pretty good.
Well, for Brits, I suppose. I said for Brits, I suppose. Actually, there was a guy here from Wales. He was an exchange student. And I don't think he was an exchange student. I think he was through the Rotary Exchange for the Harvester Cruise. And the guy's name was Owen Alexander Wayne Giles. Big ass long name. But
Jesus Christ.
He sounds very similar to you, has a close to the same accent, which is weird because Welsh people do have a much different accent. But there was another harvester crew that had a guy from right outside of Liverpool. I want to say Liverpool or Manchester or some place that's famous but not London. And they sat down and had a conversation. Now, this whole time I've known Owen, like 2 weeks or so, I've understood every single word that he said. Everything that comes out of his mouth makes sense. It's all perfect English. But then this actual Englishman shows up, and they're both sitting at the bar, both talking slang, and I can't understand a word that's coming out of either one of their faces.
You ever heard of accent neutralization?
Is that where you attempt to not have an accent?
Pardon?
Is that where you attempt to not have an accent?
Yeah, it's basically where you're trained to minimize your accent. What you're hearing now is, a rough result or attempt in that, where I think it's like a lot of people do it. You go anywhere, it's like a general accent, I guess, that's easier for people to understand.
Very much so.
Your accent is a little thick. I know a lady up in the Highlands who would not understand you one bit. In fact, she would probably stare at you. She'd stare all through you, basically. She would not understand. The first time I talked to her, I accidentally, I never fixed myself where I wasn't proper enough. And she was like, "What? What?" Like my. One second.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, busy road again.
That's
all right. Me?
I'm still here.
Yeah, so. No, she did not understand me. I talked to this woman for about 10 minutes before she told me that she did not know what I was saying. Like a little rabbit. I was like, seriously, woman?
I got lucky with accents because I got to grow up in so many places, and a lot of the places I was locked up in, I was locked up with foreign kids too, people from Russia and Ukraine and South Africa and basically from all over the place. So, like, if I hang out with people from the South for too long, I start to pick up a Southern accent. If I hang out with a bunch of white people in Boulder, I end up having a stuck-up preppy accent. If I hang out with a bunch of black folks from the ghetto, I end up with a completely different accent. And they call that chameleon. And that's also an autistic trait. Mostly it comes from people who travel a lot, but it also comes from our need, not desire, but our need to actually fit in so we're not victimized.
Yeah, survival instinct. Thank God. I was walking my dog there next to a very, very busy road, and my dog was really intent on trying to walk across the road and dragging into oncoming traffic.
That is really sad.
He's trying to kill me.
Is he purebred?
He sees things like, oh yeah, no, sorry. Sorry, man, I was actually physically panicking trying to stop my dog from killing himself. No, he's not purebred, but that specific part of the road is a graveyard, funnily enough, and that specific part of the road he always tries to cross it for some reason.
Because there's bones over there.
Suppose that makes sense. No, he's trying to walk away from the graveyard.
Oh.
Like he's like, get the fuck out of here.
Maybe it smells like dead people.
Maybe.
I know after World War II, we put down all of the military dogs that we had because, well, it traumatizes them.
That's really sad.
It is. A lot of police dogs end up getting put down too. A lot of police dogs end up getting put down too.
Why? Traumatized as what?
Well, sometimes, but most of the time it's because, well, it also depends on what state you're in. In some cases, the dog is designated to a handler, and the handler is in charge of that dog. The dog is supposed to take it home. The dog goes everywhere with this person. Now, when let's say that person gets sick, like they get cancer, or maybe they get in trouble because they assaulted, you know, I was going to say a homeless person, but nobody gave a fuck about them. If, let's say, he assaulted a black person and lost his job, then that county or that state or that jurisdiction basically owns that dog. And it is a trained police dog. And as a result, that dog could be used to harm people, especially if that officer decides to go and get vengeance or whatever. And it's very specific training that dogs get when they go to be a police dog. So a lot of the things that you test for when you're testing for whether or not you can adopt a dog out, a police dog isn't going to qualify because that part was actually trained out of them. So we kill, I want to say they say it's over 100,000 dogs per year put euthanized, but that's not just for the police departments. That's also our military police dogs. But 100,000 dogs is still a lot of dogs to put down per year.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot of them. We could probably be trained out of it, but then again, that would cost a lot of money. Like,
it takes a lot of patience too, and it takes facilities, and you got to have somebody who knows what they're doing and understands animal psychology.
Someone professional who will likely cost more money than they're willing to put on other dogs, when they can just kill them and breed new ones. That's sad.
Well, it's a lot easier to train a dog from a puppy than it is to take somebody else's trained dog, remove that person from the dog's life, and then now you have this dog that had its entire life just ripped out from underneath it. You know?
I don't mean to sound dead and morbid or shit, but is what they do to that dog not really what they do to people as well?
What do you mean? Like, why don't they put down people who get abandoned like that?
No. I mean, they do that to people well, like, you know, sending people to war and folks trauma. And
so does sending them to the system.
I'm saying they don't do that to people, so why don't they not do that to them? Like, they wouldn't say, this person's been trained to kill, they've got trauma from war, let's put them down. Like, they don't do that.
In a lot of these cases, they should, though. I don't mean that I believe that they should. I mean that a lot of the things that people in the United States say, hey, you know, we should do this and we should do that. I don't really prescribe to that way of thinking, but I also don't pretend that it doesn't exist. Although the statement that I was trying to make was based on a statement that you made that I forgot what it was. So the statement that I made was not the statement that I had intended on making. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, good.
Advice. Sorry, I got distracted.
That's all right. Don't get pulled into the street.
I didn't mean to say that out loud, by the way. I kind of just get sucked into the line. Who decides that they should break glass on a street? Like, are you fucking stupid?
Lots of people do it here.
I feel like I'm picking my dog up and carrying him most of the journey just because of morons that don't know how to recycle.
Yeah, we got that issue here too. when I was in Boulder, the homeless people were basically, well, picking up the city of Boulder and picking it up for free, because if they don't pick it up, then the cops come by and give the homeless people littering tickets. But then again, if they bust a homeless person picking up garbage, then they do the same thing. So, yeah.
There's trash everywhere here. This place is beautiful.
Oh, that picture's pretty.
Pardon?
I said the picture's pretty.
Oh yeah, where I was somewhere called the Bunny Park. And they have a little bit of loads of animals, but because of coronavirus, I'm not allowed to see them.
Let me see. I'm gonna look out my back window. I see a pile of old asphalt, a pile of rocks, a pile of blow dirt, and a pile of sand.
Piles? Like piles?
Actually, I'm gonna stick my camera out the window. Maybe I might be able to show what it looks like. We'll see.
Let me see. Okay, YouTube.
Is it showing anything?
I'm gonna go on the video, but you're gonna have to hear you twice. Does that make sense?
I'll have an echo of myself, right? Yeah, this is
just very, very bright.
Here's my horse trailer. There's the one of the city buildings. This is Chapel, Nebraska. They literally just relayed this yesterday. You can tell because the gravel here is a different color. That right there is all asphalt. That one is sand, and this one is blow dirt. This is on the city property. And then next door, that's Jefferson's property. That dirt hill there, that's theirs. The junk lot over there is also theirs. That log pile there, they're tree cutters. Matter of fact, this is the Jefferson family. I've made a few videos about them. They're absolutely wonderful people. The younger ones are kind of assholes, but that's mostly because they didn't have to live the same